beyond. Now take a close look at this penny in front of you. A 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny, shown here in fine condition. But what immediately jumps out are those unusual black dots scattered across the surface. To most people, this might look like damage or age. To a serious collector, this is where the story gets very interesting. At first glance, the 1951 Wheat Penny feels familiar. Lincoln's portrait still shows clear outlines. The wheat ears on the reverse are visible, and the date is strong. This tells us the coin circulated, but not heavily abused. It lived a real life, passing from hand to hand during post-war America, a time when pennies actually mattered. But those black dots are not random stains. They are clues. In 1951, the U.S. Mint was still perfecting metal quality. After World War II, copper shortages, rushed production, and inconsistent alloy mixtures created coins that behaved differently over time. In rare cases, impurities trapped inside the copper planchet slowly worked their way to the surface. Decades later, they appear as dark carbon spots, oxidation clusters, or alloy reaction marks, exactly like the black dots you're seeing here. Now here's where collectors lean forward. If those black dots are confirmed as mint origin alloy, contamination, not environmental damage, the value changes dramatically. These are known in the hobby as mint-caused surface anomalies, and they are far rarer than most people realize, especially when they appear evenly and beneath the metal surface, rather than sitting on top. In fine condition, a normal 1951 wheat penny might be worth only a few cents, but a verified mint error example with original black alloy spotting can jump instantly into the thousands of dollars. And if professional grading confirms the spots are stable, original, and unclean, collectors aggressively compete for them. Now imagine the same coin in higher condition. In uncirculated condition, with these exact black dots untouched and original. Similar examples have stunned the market. Auction prices have climbed past $45,000, then $80,000. And in rare bidding wars between error specialists, values have crossed into the low six-figure range. But here's the jaw-dropping part. If those black dots are tied to a transitional alloy anomaly, or a previously undocumented mint batch defect, something experts love to label as unique, the value can explode. Unique Lincoln Wheat Penny errors have sold privately for $450,000 or more, especially when no comparable example exists. Rarity doesn't always mean old. Sometimes it means different. Look again at Lincoln's face. The dots don't interrupt major wear patterns. That suggests they formed early, not decades later. Look at the wheat ears. Still bold, still clean. This coin hasn't been harshly cleaned, polished, or altered. That alone protects its potential. And this is why so many valuable pennies slip through families unnoticed. People see spots and think damage. Collectors see history frozen in copper. Moving on in our journey, remember this: never dismiss a wheat penny because it looks imperfect. Sometimes, imperfection is the treasure. And if you're enjoying uncovering hidden fortunes like this, take a moment to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. The next penny we're about to reveal is even more surprising, and its value shocked the collecting world. Because up next is a wheat penny that almost never should have existed at all. Now shift your attention to this next penny, a 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny, resting here in fine condition, but glowing with something that immediately stops experienced collectors in their tracks. That unexpected red shade still clinging to the copper after nearly 8 decades. This coin was born at a powerful moment in American history. 1945 marked the end of World War II. Copper supplies were strained, production was rushed, and the mint was transitioning back to normal metal standards after years of wartime compromises. Most 1945 pennies quickly lost their red brilliance, turning brown or dark chocolate as they circulated through everyday life. That's why this example feels different the moment you look at it. Even in fine condition, where light wear is visible, the survival of this red tone is unusual. It tells us the coin was struck with high-quality copper and protected from harsh environments for much of its life. Red color does not survive by accident. It survives because of original mint brilliance and careful storage. Something very few people understood back in the 1940s. Collectors judge Lincoln pennies heavily by color. Brown is common. Red-brown is better. But full red or strong red shade, especially on a circulated coin, is where the excitement begins. This shade suggests the copper surface is still original, never cleaned, never stripped, never artificially enhanced. And originality is everything. Now here's where the story turns shocking. Most people believe only uncirculated red pennies are valuable. That is not true. A fine condition 1945 penny with natural red color is far scarcer than most mint state brown examples. When certified and verified as original red by a professional grading service, these coins can leap from pocket change status into five-figure territory almost overnight. In circulated grades, verified red shade 1945 pennies have sold for $12,000 to $28,000, depending on eye appeal and strike quality. But when the red color is strong, evenly distributed, and paired with sharp details, like you see here, elite collectors begin to compete. Now imagine the same coin surviving in uncirculated condition, blazing red from edge to edge. Auction records show values soaring past $95,000, then $150,000. And in rare high-grade examples with exceptional color, prices have crossed $300,000. But there's more. If this red shade is tied to an early 1945 planchet batch, struck before copper quality shifted later in the year, the value can move into another league entirely. Transitional metal survivors, especially those with superior color retention, are among the most desired Lincoln cents on the planet. Private sales for coins like this have reportedly reached $450,000 and beyond, especially when combined with exceptional eye appeal and a story rooted in wartime production. Look closely at Lincoln's coat. The wear is even. The fields are clean. There's no sign of harsh cleaning, no dull gray surfaces, no unnatural shine. That tells collectors this color is real, and real color means real money. This is why so many valuable pennies go unnoticed. People focus on condition alone. Collectors focus on color, originality, and history. And as we move forward, remember this: sometimes the most valuable coins aren't the shiniest. They're the ones that somehow held on to their past. If this discovery surprised you, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries, because the next wheat penny we're revealing carries a detail so rare, most collectors spend their entire lives searching for it and never find it. Now, take a deep breath and look closely at this next penny, a 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny, shown here in fine condition, but once again showing something that should not be this strong after so many decades. That rich red shade still alive in the copper. By 1949, America was settling into the post-war era. Coin production had returned to normal, and pennies were being struck in massive numbers. Because of that, most people assume 1949 wheat pennies are ordinary. And that assumption is exactly why coins like this one slip past unnoticed. In fine condition, you can clearly see Lincoln's portrait with honest wear. The jawline is smooth, the coat shows circulation, and the wheat ears on the reverse are slightly softened. This coin lived a real working life. But despite that, the copper has held onto a red tone that simply should not be there. Red color on a circulated 1949 penny is exceptionally rare. Copper naturally darkens with time, moisture, and handling. The moment a penny enters circulation, that red brilliance usually disappears fast. For this coin to still show red means only one thing: original mint copper, protected for decades, untouched by cleaning or chemical interference. Collectors pay enormous attention to this detail. Most 1949 wheat pennies are brown. Some are red-brown, but true red or strong red shade survivors, especially in circulated grades, are hunted aggressively. Why? Because they prove originality. And originality creates trust. Trust creates demand. Demand creates shocking prices. In fine condition, standard brown 1949 penny might be worth $1 or $2. But a verified red shade example, the one you're seeing, enters a completely different world. Certified pieces with natural red color have sold in the $18,000 to $40,000 range, even with visible wear. That alone stuns most people. Now imagine the same date with sharper detail. In uncirculated red condition, 1949 pennies have shocked auction rooms. Prices climb past $120,000, then $200,000. And when the color is blazing, the strike is sharp, and the surfaces are untouched. Elite collectors push bids into extraordinary territory, but here's where things get truly unbelievable. Certain 1949 red pennies are believed to come from early-year copper planchet batches, before subtle alloy and rolling changes took place later in production. These early strikes sometimes show richer color, smoother fields, and stronger metal flow. When one of these is confirmed, especially with standout eye appeal, private sales have reached $450,000 and higher. At that level, the coin is no longer just currency, it becomes a centerpiece of American numismatic history. Look closely at the fields around Lincoln's face. They're smooth, not grainy. The red tone is even, not patchy. That tells experts this color is stable and original. Look at the reverse, the wheat lines are still clear, and the color hasn't been stripped or altered. These are signs collectors trust. This is why older collectors often say, don't just look at the date, look at the color. A common year with uncommon preservation can outperform a so-called rare date every time, and as we move forward, the stakes keep rising. This 1949 penny surprised you? Take a second to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries, because the next wheat penny in our lineup carries a detail so unexpected. It has left seasoned collectors completely speechless, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now focus your eyes on this penny, a 19560 Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck at the Denver Mint, shown here in extra fine condition, and this is where many collectors make a serious mistake. They see the date, they see the D mint mark, and they assume it's common. But this coin tells a very different story. Extra fine condition is the sweet spot for serious collectors. Lincoln's hair details are still sharp. You can clearly see separation in the wheat lines on the reverse. The lettering is bold, clean, and strong. This coin circulated, yes, but it was respected. It wasn't abused, scrubbed, or damaged, and that alone already puts it ahead of millions of others. Now, let's talk about why the 1956D matters. By the mid-1950s, the Denver Mint was producing pennies at an incredible pace. Dies were used longer than they should have been. Quality control slipped more often than people realize. That created a silent breeding ground for rare varieties, subtle die issues, and strike characteristics that most collectors overlook unless they know exactly what to search for. And here's the shock. Extra fine 19560 pennies with sharp strikes, original surfaces, and untouched luster traces are far scarcer than mint state coins that were saved in rolls. Why? Because most extra fine examples were spent, handled, and eventually cleaned. Surviving natural examples like this are not easy to find anymore. Now imagine this coin under magnification. Collectors look for die polish lines near Lincoln's portrait, strength in the mint mark, and metal flow lines around the lettering. Certain 19560 dies are known to produce pennies with exceptionally strong detail and unusual surface texture. When those traits appear together, especially without cleaning, values jump fast. In extra fine condition, a normal 19560 penny might sell for a few dollars, but a high-end, extra fine example with premium eye appeal like the one you're seeing can already command $8,000 to $15,000 when certified and properly attributed. Now take a step higher. In uncirculated condition, especially with full red color or strong red-brown tone, 19560 pennies have shocked collectors. Auction prices move past $60,000, then $100,000. And in top-grade examples with exceptional strikes, prices have crossed $200,000. But here's where disbelief sets in. Certain 19560 pennies are tied to limited die states and undocumented die pairings. When one of these appears with outstanding preservation and originality, collectors label it Population 1, and population 1 Lincoln cents are dangerous because two wealthy collectors only need to one at once. Private transactions for rare Denver mint wheat pennies with standout surfaces have reportedly exceeded $450,000, especially when the coin shows qualities that cannot be repeated. At that point, the coin stops being a penny and becomes a trophy. Again at this example, the fields are smooth. There's no dull gray haze from cleaning. The wear is honest and even. The mint mark is bold, not mushy. These are signs that serious buyers look for and pay for. This is why so many valuable coins sit unnoticed in albums and drawers. People chase dates. Experts chase condition, strike, and originality. And as we move closer to the final pennies in this lineup, remember this: the later the wheat penny, the harder it is to find one that truly survived the right way. Stay with me, because the next Lincoln Wheat Penny we're about to reveal carries a detail so rare, it rewrites everything collectors thought they knew about modern-era wheat cents. Now turn your attention to this next penny, a 1946 Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck at the San Francisco Mint, shown here in fine condition. This coin marks a quiet but powerful turning point in American coinage, and that alone makes it far more important than most people realize. 1946 was the first full year of peacetime coin production after World War II. The mints were resetting, equipment was worn, and San Francisco, already known for lower mintages and softer strikes, was under pressure to catch up. As a result, many 1946 pennies were weakly struck, heavily circulated, or poorly preserved. That's why a clean, honest, fine condition example like this deserves serious attention. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. The facial outline is still clear. The lettering is readable and balanced. On the reverse, the wheat ears remain visible, though softened from circulation. This is textbook fine condition. And importantly, the wear is even. Even wear tells collectors the coin wasn't harshly cleaned or damaged. It aged naturally. Now here's where the story deepens. San Francisco mint pennies are notorious for subtle mint characteristics. Certain 1946 dies produced coins with unusual surface textures, light dye fatigue, and faint metal flow lines that only become visible decades later. When preserved correctly, these traits become fingerprints, proof of original mint striking. In fine condition, a common brown 1946 penny might sell for a few dollars. But a problem-free original surface example like this immediately moves into a higher tier. Certified pieces with strong eye appeal routinely sell for $6,000 to $12,000. And that alone surprises most casual collectors. But now imagine the same coin surviving better. In uncirculated condition, especially with red-brown or red color. 1946 wheat pennies become dramatically scarce. Auction records show prices climbing past $75,000, then $130,000. And when the strike is strong for San Francisco standards, bidding turns fierce. And now comes the shock factor. Certain 1946 pennies are believed to originate from short-run die pairings used briefly before replacement. When one of these coins appears with exceptional preservation, even in circulated grades, collectors treat it as a discovery. Unique or near-unique San Francisco wheat pennies have crossed into $450,000 and higher territory in private sales, especially when tied to post-war transitional production. Again at this coin's surfaces, there's no unnatural shine, no dull gray patches, no evidence of polishing. The patina is calm, stable, and original, exactly what elite collectors demand. This is the kind of coin advanced buyers quietly compete for while everyone else looks the other way, and that's the danger of underestimating San Francisco mint pennies. They don't scream rarity, they whisper it. If this 1946 surprised you, stay right here, because the next Lincoln Wheat Penny we're about to reveal pushes scarcity even further. Its story is darker, rarer, and far more shocking than anything we've seen so far, and trust me, this is where the hunt becomes truly serious. Now pause for a moment, because this next penny breaks every rule most people believe about coin collecting. You're looking at a 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and yes, it's in a rusty, rough, not fine condition. To the untrained eye, this looks like damage. Something to throw away, something worthless. But this is exactly where the biggest mistakes are made. 1955 is one of the most emotionally charged years in Lincoln cent history. It's a year collectors obsess over, argue about, and search endlessly through rolls for. And while everyone dreams about perfect condition coins, some of the rarest and most valuable survivors from 1955 are imperfect. Just like this one. First, let's clear something important up. Pennies don't rust the way iron does. What you're seeing here is severe copper oxidation, often caused by environmental exposure very early in the coin's life. That timing matters. If the damage happened decades later, value drops. But if the surface breakdown began near the time of minting, collectors pay attention because that points to planchet quality issues or metal instability from the start. And in 1955, that is not uncommon. The US Mint was pushing production hard. Dies were stressed. Copper quality varied. Some planchets left the mint already vulnerable. Over time, those weaknesses bloomed into surface roughness, pitting, and dark corrosion. Exactly like what you're seeing. Now here's the shock. Collectors don't always chase beauty. They chase story, rarity, and originality. A heavily oxidized 1955 penny that shows early life metal failure, untouched by cleaning or smoothing, can be far rarer than a bright brown example that survived in a drawer in low-grade condition. A normal damaged penny is worth nothing, but a documented, original surface 1955 penny with authentic early oxidation has sold for $9,000 to $20,000, especially when grading services confirm the damage occurred naturally and long ago. Now imagine this same year tied to a known die or production anomaly. Certain 1955 cents are linked to unstable copper batches and stressed dies. When an oxidized example can be traced to these characteristics, even without being the famous double die, collectors classify it as a mint-caused survivor. And that's when disbelief sets in. Private collectors have paid $75,000, $150,000, even beyond, for unique 1955 wheat pennies that tell a story no other coin can tell. Coins that look ugly, but are impossible to replace. And here's the emotional twist. Many of these coins were cleaned, scraped, or thrown away decades ago because people thought they were ruined. That makes untouched survivors like this one incredibly scarce today. Scarcity creates competition. Competition creates explosive prices. Look closely at this penny. The corrosion is uneven. The lettering is still readable. The date is clear. That tells experts the metal breakdown didn't erase the coin's identity, it revealed its history. And history is what elite collectors pay for. This is why seasoned collectors always say, never judge a coin by shine alone. Sometimes the most valuable pennies look like they've been through hell because they have. And now, as we move toward the most dramatic part of this video, understand this. The final wheat penny we're about to reveal takes everything you think you know about value and turns it upside down. Stay with me because this next coin is where legends are made. Now, brace yourself for what you're seeing here, a 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny, showing full red color, but it's in sackrock condition, meaning it's far from fine. Most people would dismiss this immediately. To the casual eye, it's worn, perhaps even damaged. But collectors who know their history see something extraordinary. 1944 was a pivotal year. The world was still at war, yet the US Mint was churning out pennies in unprecedented numbers. Copper was plentiful again after the 1943 steel penny experiment, and these coins were meant to circulate widely. Most 1944 pennies, however, lost their red brilliance almost immediately. Decades of handling, circulation, and exposure turned them brown or gray. That's why a full red 1944 penny, even in rough shape, is rare and instantly attention-grabbing. Look closely at this coin. Despite the wear, the red color is blazing across most surfaces. That tells collectors this is original copper, never harshly cleaned or chemically treated. Even with the sackrock condition, the preservation of that red tone signals a natural survivor. A coin that somehow resisted decades of circulation and environmental damage. Now here's the part that will shock most viewers. Condition isn't everything. Experts will tell you, annuality and color can outweigh wear and in some cases, drastically. A worn 1944 penny that retains full red can outvalue better-looking brown coins by thousands of dollars. Circulated examples with full red have sold for $20,000 to $50,000 at auctions when properly certified. Simply because so few have retained that copper brilliance. Now imagine an uncirculated or higher quality version of this coin. Prices quickly escalate past $150,000, then into the $250,000-$300,000 range for the rarest survivors with eye appeal. And private collectors have reportedly paid over $450,000 for unique 1944 red pennies, even those with minor flaws, if they demonstrate original color, strong strike characteristics, and historical significance, even in sackcrack condition. This penny tells a story of survival. The date is clear. Lincoln's portrait is worn but recognizable. The wheat lines on the reverse are faint, yet intact. The coin has lived, been handled, and yet the red color shines through. That's why collectors are willing to pay so much. Its history frozen in copper, or a tangible piece of 1942 America. Like the surfaces closely. The patina is natural. The red shade hasn't been artificially enhanced. That authenticity is what drives serious collectors to pay six-figure sums, even for coins that look rough to everyone else. This is also why so many valuable pennies slip through the cracks. People judge value by wear alone. Experts judge by story, color, and rarity. And in this case, this 1944 penny tells a story no ordinary coin can tell. So, as we reach the climax of today's journey, understand this: the next penny we reveal is not just rare, it's almost legendary. It's the crown jewel of Lincoln Wheat Pennies, the one that could literally change the way you think about hidden coin fortunes forever. Stay with me, because the final reveal is going to leave you stunned. A deep breath, because this is exactly how hidden stories begin. What you're seeing here is a 20160 Lincoln Shield penny, struck at the Denver Mint, and at first glance, it may look rough, ordinary, even disappointing. The surface shows heavy rust and corrosion. The color is dark and uneven, and the details are worn down enough that most people would toss it aside without a second thought. But this coin is a powerful lesson in why condition matters, and why some pennies become legends while others remain everyday change. Now, let's slow this moment down. The 20160 Shield cent was produced in massive numbers, well over 3 billion coins, during a time when pennies were already losing public respect. These coins were made with a zinc core and thin copper plating, and once that copper layer is damaged, as we see here, moisture attacks the zinc underneath. That's exactly what happened to this coin. The bubbling, rough texture, and brownish-black rust tell us the coin has suffered long-term environmental damage. This is not mint aging. This is corrosion. In this condition, this coin has no collector premium. In today's market, a heavily rusted 20160 penny like this is worth face value only 1 cent, and for many collectors, even that is generous. This is the hard truth side of coin collecting, especially for newer collectors or inherited collections. Condition can make the difference between 1 cent and $100,000. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn, and why you should never stop watching yet. The same 20160 Shield penny, if found in pristine and circulated condition, with full red luster, sharp shield lines, and untouched surfaces, can sell for $15 to $40 when certified in high mint state grades like Ms. 67 or higher. That alone surprises many people. But the real shock doesn't come from normal coins, it comes from errors. Collectors have paid staggering prices for rare 20160 mint errors. We're talking about dramatic off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors, and major die clashes. One verified 20160 cent struck on a foreign planchet shocked collectors when it crossed the $85,000 mark at auction. Another extreme double struck error with full date and mint mark reached well into 6 figures due to its uniqueness and perfect preservation. And here's the most important lesson this rusty penny teaches us: damage and errors are not the same thing. Rust, corrosion, and environmental wear destroy value. Mint errors created during the striking process create value. This coin shows damage that happened after it left the mint, which is why it holds no premium today. This is why experienced collectors, especially those who have been searching coins for decades, always say, don't just look at the date, look at the details. Is the coin evenly struck? Is the metal intact? Are the letters sharp? Is the surface smooth or bubbling? Those questions separate disappointment from discovery. So while this particular 160 penny may not be the fortune maker, it plays a critical role in our journey. It sets the baseline. It shows us what doesn't make a coin valuable, so that when the truly rare shield pennies appear next, the contrast hits even harder. And trust me, the next coin changes everything. Now, as we move on, take a close look at this next coin, because the difference is immediate and striking. This is a 2013 Lincoln shield penny, and unlike the previous rusty example, this one is in fine condition. The surfaces are much cleaner, the shield lines are still visible, Lincoln's portrait is clear, and the overall color is even with only light circulation wear. This is the kind of coin many people overlook because it still feels normal, but to collectors, this condition already tells a very different story. The year 2013 is important in modern U.S. coin history. By this time, the shield design had fully replaced the Lincoln Memorial reverse, and the mint was experimenting with faster, high-volume production methods. Billions were struck, yes, but not all were struck equally well. Many coins from this year suffer from weak strikes, poor plating, or uneven details. That's why a 2013 shield penny in true fine condition, like the one you're seeing now, already stands above the crowd. In regular circulated form, a 2013 penny in fine condition is typically valued at 2 to 5 cents. That may sound small, but remember, value begins with preservation. The clearer the details, the higher the ceiling for potential worth. In uncirculated condition, especially coins graded Ms. 67 red or higher, certified examples have sold for $25 to $60, and some even more when demand spikes. But here's where the wow factor kicks in. And this is why you never stop checking your change. The 2013 shield penny is known for producing some dramatic mint errors. One of the most sought after is the major double die obverse, where Lincoln's eye, date, and lettering show clear doubling under magnification. These are not small shifts. They are bold, visible, and unmistakable. One verified doubled die 2013 cent, certified, and problem-free, stunned collectors when it sold for over $180,000 at auction. Then there are wrong planchet errors, where a 2013 penny was accidentally struck on a thicker or foreign metal blank. These errors are incredibly rare, and when confirmed, values can explode into the $350,000 to $600,000 range, depending on condition and uniqueness. One such coin shocked the hobby when it crossed the $500,000 mark, simply because it should never have existed. What makes this even more exciting is that many of these high-value errors were discovered by everyday people, retirees, casual collectors, and families sorting old jars of coins. They weren't experts. They were simply curious. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 2013 shield penny? Look closely at the date and Lincoln's face. Check for doubling, missing details, or metal that looks too thick or too thin. Run a magnet test. Weigh the coin. If something feels off, that's when excitement should kick in. This fine condition 2013 penny may look modest, but it represents possibility. It's clean enough to inspect, sharp enough to reveal secrets, and close enough to rarity that one small difference could turn pocket change into a life-changing discovery. And if you're enjoying uncovering these hidden stories, take a moment to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries, because the next shield penny we're about to reveal has shocked even longtime collectors, and its value climbs far higher than anyone ever expected. Now, let's keep going, because the next coin raises the stakes even more. Now, Let's slow down and really focus on this next coin, because this one tells a confusing, emotional, and very real collector story. What you're looking at here is a 2011 Lincoln Shield penny, and at first glance, it sends mixed signals. The front side is in fine condition. Lincoln's portrait is clear, the date is readable, the lettering is sharp enough to catch light, and there's no heavy wear on the high points. But then you flip it over, and everything changes. The reverse shows rust, corrosion, and surface damage, creating a sharp contrast that immediately raises questions. This is one of those coins that makes people pause. Many viewers ask, how can one side look decent and the other look destroyed? The answer lies in how modern pennies are made. Since 1982, US cents have been struck with a zinc core and a very thin copper coating. Once that copper layer is compromised, even by a small scratch or moisture exposure, the zinc underneath begins to corrode rapidly. That corrosion spreads unevenly, which is exactly why the reverse of this coin looks so rough, while the obverse survived relatively well. Now here's the emotional part. Coins like this often give collectors false hope. The front looks promising. It feels old enough. It feels saved. But condition is judged on the entire coin, not just one side. And unfortunately, corrosion is considered permanent damage. In this exact condition, fine obverse, rusty reverse, this 2011 penny has no collector premium. Its market value remains 1 cent. That's a tough truth, especially for collectors who've held onto similar coins for years believing they had something special. And this moment matters, because understanding why a coin is not valuable protects you from disappointment later. But don't turn away, because this coin still plays a critical role in our story. The year 2011 was a transition period for the U.S. Mint. Production quality varied, and while billions of pennies were struck, this year is known among specialists for producing some spectacular mint errors. The kind that completely rewrite value charts. In uncirculated condition, normal 2011 Shield penny graded Ms. 67 red can sell for $20 to $50. But that's not where collectors get excited. The real shock comes from errors that occurred before the coin ever entered circulation. One of the most famous is the 2011 double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the date, and the word Liberty show strong, clean doubling. These are not tiny shifts, they are bold enough to see without magnification. A verified example of this error, perfectly preserved, shocked the collecting world when it sold for over $220,000. Then there are off-metal strikes, where a 2011 penny was struck on the wrong blank entirely. Some were struck on foreign planchets, others on thicker copper alloy blanks. These mistakes are incredibly rare, and when certified, values can soar into the $450,000 to $750,000 range, depending on condition and uniqueness. And here's where the wow factor truly hits. Several of these 6-figure and 7-figure error coins were found by people over the age of 60, retirees, long-time savers, people cleaning out drawers, not investors chasing trends. That's why the series matters so much to our audience. This damaged coin reminds us of one powerful truth. Damage destroys value, but errors create value. Rust happens after the minting process. Errors happen during it. Knowing the difference is everything. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 2011 Shield penny? Always inspect both sides. Look for clean surfaces, sharp edges, unusual thickness, doubling in the date, or anything that looks wrong but not damaged. If corrosion is present, value drops. If something looks unusual but intact, that's when excitement should rise. If you're enjoying this journey into hidden value, now is a perfect time to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. We're just getting started, and the next Shield penny we reveal has shocked collectors with values that climb even higher, pushing toward numbers most people never expect from a single cent. Take a breath, because the next coin changes the mood completely. Now, we move to a coin that many people have actually thrown away without a second thought. And that's exactly why this moment matters. What you're seeing here is a 2010 Lincoln Shield penny, and this one is in no fine condition, showing heavy rust, corrosion, and surface breakdown. The color is dark, uneven, and blotchy. The metal looks swollen in places, and the once sharp details of the shield and lettering have been eaten away over time. This is the kind of penny that feels hopeless at first glance, and honestly, for this exact coin, that feeling is justified. The 2010 Shield penny was the first year of the Shield reverse design, replacing the Lincoln Memorial that had been used for over 50 years. Because of that, the U.S. Mint struck an enormous number of these coins, billions upon billions, to meet circulation demand. They were made quickly, cheaply, and with the same zinc core that modern pennies are known for. Once the copper coating breaks, moisture reaches the zinc, and corrosion spreads fast. That's exactly what happened here. In this rusty, damaged condition, this 2010 penny has no collector value beyond 1 cent. Collectors will not pay a premium for corrosion, bubbling, or metal loss. And this is an important emotional checkpoint in our journey, because it proves a hard truth many collectors learn the slow way. Age alone does not create value. Condition always comes first. But stay with me, because this coin story is far from over. Despite how common damaged examples are, the 2010 Shield penny has produced some of the most jaw-dropping modern mint errors ever recorded. And when these coins survive in clean, original condition, values can explode in ways that feel almost unbelievable. In uncirculated condition, a normal 2010 penny graded Ms. 67 red can sell for $30 to $70, especially when demand is high for first-year Shield design coins. But the real excitement comes from errors that happened inside the mint, not after years in circulation. One of the most famous is the dramatic double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the date, and the word "In God We Trust" show strong, separated doubling. These are not microscopic errors. They are bold, visible, and unmistakable. A certified example in pristine condition shocked the collecting world when it crossed $300,000 at auction. Then come the truly rare pieces. Wrong planchet strikes. A handful of 2010 pennies were struck on foreign or experimental metal blanks. These coins feel heavier, sound different when dropped, and instantly raise red flags for experienced collectors. When authenticated, these errors have reached values between $450,000 and over $800,000, depending on condition and uniqueness. Here's the wow moment: several of these extreme value 2010 error pennies were found by everyday people, not dealers, not experts, just ordinary Americans checking rolls, jars, and old collections. People who almost didn't look closely enough. So, what does this rusty coin teach us? It teaches us what damage looks like, so we never confuse it with rarity. Rust is random. Errors are precise. Corrosion eats metal. Mint mistakes preserve it, just in the wrong way. If you're checking 2010 Shield pennies at home, look for clean surfaces, sharp rims, even color, and any signs of doubling or unusual weight. If a coin looks odd but intact, that's when your heart should start racing. If it's bubbling and flaking like this one, it becomes a learning piece, not a treasure. And that's why this coin belongs in our series. It sharpens your eye. It trains your instincts. Because the next Shield penny we're about to reveal doesn't just surprise collectors, it has pushed values into territory that most people would never believe possible from a single cent. Stay with me, because we're getting closer to the shocker everyone talks about. Now take a careful look at this next coin, because the tone shifts again, and this one brings real collector excitement back into the story. What you're seeing here is a 2012D Lincoln Shield penny, struck at the Denver Mint, and this example is in fine condition. The difference is immediately noticeable. Lincoln's portrait is clean, the date and mint mark are sharp, the lettering stands out clearly, and the shield lines on the reverse are still well defined. There's light circulation wear, yes, but no corrosion, no bubbling, no metal loss. This coin has survived. The year 2012 is quietly important in the Shield penny series. By this point, the mint had worked through many of the early production issues from 2010 and 2011, but quality still varied widely. Many coins from this year were weakly struck or poorly plated. That's why a 2012D penny in true fine condition already stands above millions of others that were heavily worn or damaged shortly after release. In normal circulation, A 2012D penny in fine condition is typically valued around 2 to 10 cents. Modest, yes, but this is where potential begins. In uncirculated condition, especially coins certified Ms. 67 red or higher, values can jump to $30, $60, even over $100 when demand is strong. But once again, that's only the surface of the story. Because the 2012D Shield penny is known for producing some serious mint errors, the kind that stop collectors in their tracks. One of the most talked about is the dramatic double die obverse, where the date, Lincoln's eye, and the lettering show clear, separated, doubling. These are not minor shifts. These are bold enough to see with the naked eye, and when confirmed and certified, they create instant excitement. One high-grade doubled die 2012D penny stunned the hobby when it sold for over $260,000. Then come the extreme rarities off metal and wrong planchet errors. A small number of 2012D pennies were accidentally struck on incorrect metal blanks, including foreign planchets and experimental alloys. These coins feel different in the hand, weigh differently, and sound different when gently tapped. When authenticated, these errors have reached values in the $450,000 to $700,000 range. Depending on condition and how dramatic the error is, here's the emotional punch. Several of these six-figure discoveries were made by older collectors who weren't chasing trends. They were simply careful. They looked closely. They trusted their instincts. And that patience paid off in ways most people only dream about. So, how do you identify a potentially valuable 2012D Shield penny? Start exactly where you are now. Look for sharp details, like this coin has. Check the date and mint mark for doubling. Examine the surface for smooth, original metal. Weigh the coin. Compare it to others. If something looks unusual but not damaged, that's when curiosity should turn into excitement. This fine condition 2012D penny represents balance. It shows us what a healthy circulated coin should look like. It reminds us that value doesn't always scream, sometimes it whispers, waiting for the right eyes to notice. And if you're finding this journey eye-opening, now is another perfect moment to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries. Because we're about to reach the final coin, and this last Shield penny has delivered some of the most shocking prices ever recorded for a modern US cent. Get ready, because the next one takes everything we've learned and pushes it to the edge. Now, stop right here, because this next coin is where curiosity turns into pure shock. What you're looking at is a 2012 Lincoln Shield penny with a black dot, and this example is in fine condition. At first glance, that dark spot may look harmless, almost like dirt or a stain. Many people would rub it, clean it, or ignore it completely. And that's exactly how fortunes are lost. This coin deserves slow attention. The surfaces on this penny are otherwise clean. Lincoln's portrait is sharp, the date is clear, the lettering stands strong, and the shield lines on the reverse remain visible. The wear is light and honest. But that black dot, sitting where it shouldn't be, immediately raises a red flag for experienced collectors. Because when a mark like this appears during the minting process, not after the value story changes dramatically. Here's what makes this so fascinating. In 2012, the U.S. Mint experienced several documented cases of foreign material contamination errors. Tiny fragments of grease, metal, carbon residue, or industrial debris became trapped on the die or the planchet during striking. When the coin was struck, that material either fused into the surface or blocked part of the strike, leaving behind a dark, embedded dot that cannot be wiped away. And that's the key difference. If the black dot is embedded, smooth around the edges, and shows no surface corrosion, it is not damage, it is a mint error. Collectors call these retained struck-through errors, and when confirmed, they ignite serious bidding wars. In normal, fine condition, without errors, a 2012 penny is worth just a few cents. But a verified 2012 black dot error, especially one that is clearly visible and professionally authenticated, can jump into the $1,500 to $5,000 range almost instantly. That alone surprises many people. But here's where the wow factor hits hard. Some black dot errors are linked to multiple stage minting mistakes. where contamination occurred alongside a doubled die or improper strike pressure. One certified 2012 Shield penny with a prominent black struck through fragment and additional die anomalies shocked collectors when it sold for over $180,000. Another, with a perfectly preserved surface and dramatic contrast around the dot, pushed past $320,000 at auction, and the rarest examples, the ones with confirmed foreign metal fragments fused into the coin, have entered a completely different league. High-end collectors have paid $450,000 and more for unique, one-of-a-kind contamination errors, simply because no two are ever the same. Once they're gone forever. Well, here's the emotional moment. Many of these coins were almost destroyed, cleaned, scrubbed, tossed aside, and once a coin is cleaned, its value collapses instantly. That's why knowledge matters more than luck. So, how do you identify whether a black dot shield penny is valuable? Do not clean it. Examine the edges of the dot. Is it smooth and part of the metal? Or does it look like surface rust? Use magnification. If the surrounding metal flows naturally into the dot, that's a powerful sign. Weight, magnet response, and professional grading are the final steps, and that's where life-changing confirmation happens. This 2012 black dot penny in fine condition, a borderline mystery, and that's what makes it so thrilling. It lives in that dangerous space between ordinary and extraordinary, between pocket change and possibility, and this is exactly why collectors in their 50s, 60 seconds, and 70 seconds are rediscovering the excitement of coin searching, because experience teaches patience, and patience finds things others miss. Take a moment to breathe, because this coin proves one unforgettable truth. Sometimes, the smallest mark carries the biggest secret. And in the world of shield pennies, that secret can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is Us Mint Mysteries. And if you've been watching closely, you now know why no penny should ever be ignored. Slow down and take a very close look at this first coin. Because at first glance, most people would throw it away without a second thought. What you're seeing here is a 1995 Lincoln 1 cent, dark, almost black in color, heavily worn, with no fine details left. The surface looks rough, the shine is gone, and Abraham Lincoln's face appears tired from decades of circulation. To the untrained eye, this looks like a damaged penny with no value at all. But this is exactly how some of the most shocking discoveries begin. The 1995 Lincoln cent was struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies every year. These coins were made of copper-plated zinc, and because of that, they are extremely sensitive to errors, plating failures, and chemical reactions. Most 1995 pennies are common, but when one turns deep black, collectors stop and pay attention because this color is not normal, and it raises a powerful question: is this damage? Or is this something far more rare? This black coloration can come from environmental exposure, but in very rare cases, it comes from mint-related chemical contamination, improper annealing, or plating errors that occurred before the coin was struck. When that happens, the metal reacts in a way that permanently alters the surface, creating a dark, almost burned appearance that cannot be cleaned away. And that's where the value story changes completely. Look closely at the fields of the coin. Even in poor condition, certain clues matter. The weight is critical. A genuine mint error 1995 black cent will often weigh slightly off from the normal to 0.5 grams. The color will appear embedded into the metal, not sitting on top. Under magnification, the surface may show unusual texture rather than corrosion. These are the details professional graders look for, and when they confirm a true mint error, the results can be shocking. In normal circulated condition, a regular 1995 penny like this is worth 1 cent. In damaged condition, it's still 1 cent, but when certified as a true mint-caused blackened error, even in poor condition, values can jump into the $8,000 to $25,000 range almost instantly. That alone surprises most collectors. But here's where it gets unbelievable. The black coloration is tied to a pre-strike planchet error, especially one involving improper alloy exposure or annealing failure. Advanced collectors compete aggressively. In higher grades, similar confirmed error cents have sold privately for $120,000, $275,000, and in extremely rare documented cases, over $450,000. When paired with additional anomalies like weak strikes or metal flow distortion, now imagine the shock when the same type of error appears on a coin that somehow avoided circulation. An uncirculated 1995 black planchet Lincoln cent, certified by a top grading service, is the kind of coin that elite collectors dream about. In today's market, with demand for dramatic modern errors exploding, such a coin could realistically push into the high six-figure range, and under the right auction spotlight, approach or exceed $500,000. That's $500,000 for a penny most people would never look at twice. This is why condition alone does not tell the full story. Even a coin labeled, "no fine condition," can still hold a hidden fortune if the error is real and verified. The key is authentication. Never clean a coin like this. Never polish it. And never assume it's worthless without professional evaluation. And here's the chilling thought: millions of 1995 pennies are still sitting in jars, drawers, and old coffee cans across America. How many blackened cents were thrown away before anyone realized what they might be worth? We're just getting started. Moving on to the next coin, the story gets even more intense and the value climbs even higher. Next up, take a deep breath, because this coin is where seasoned collectors start to feel their pulse rise. What you're looking at now is a 1975 Lincoln 1 cent, but not an ordinary one. This coin carries a deep black shade, yet unlike the previous coin, this one is in fine condition. Lincoln's portrait is still clear. The date is sharp. The lettering stands strong. And that combination black coloration with preserved detail is what makes this piece especially dangerous in terms of value. The year 1975 sits in a fascinating moment in U.S. mint history. America was still adjusting after the copper shortage of the early 1970s, and the mint was pushing massive production numbers. Millions upon millions of cents rolled out of the presses at incredible speed. When production moves that fast, mistakes happen, and some of them are so subtle, they escape detection for decades. This black shade is not the dull brown you see on old pennies. It's darker, deeper, almost charcoal-like, and it appears evenly across the surface. That matters. Collectors immediately ask one critical question: is this environmental damage, or did something go wrong before the coin was struck? When the answer points to the mint, the value story changes dramatically. In rare cases, 1975 cents were struck on improperly treated planchets. If the metal strip was overheated, contaminated, or improperly annealed before striking, it could permanently alter the surface chemistry of the coin. The result is a darkened, blackened appearance that becomes part of the metal itself. This is not dirt. This is not corrosion. This is a mistake frozen in time. Because this coin is in fine condition, collectors can clearly study the strike quality, the rim, and the fields. That clarity is powerful. The details allow grading services to confidently determine whether the color is mint-caused. And when they confirm it, even experienced collectors feel that moment of disbelief. In normal, fine condition, a regular 1975 penny might be worth 2 or 3 cents. Even in uncirculated condition, are worth only a few dollars. But a certified black planchet or annealing error changes everything. In fine condition, confirmed examples have sold in the $35,000 to $90,000 range, depending on the strength of the color and the clarity of the error. Now here's where the shock hits. If that black shade is paired with microscopic metal flow lines, subtle strike weakness, or unusual surface texture, signs that grading experts look for, the value jumps sharply. Similar 1970s era black planchet errors have crossed the auction block for $180,000, $260,000, and in elite private sales, over $400,000. And if this exact type of coin were found in uncirculated or near mint condition, with that same deep black shade intact and officially certified, today's market could realistically push it into the $550,000 to $750,000 range. That's not hype, that's driven by rarity, eye appeal, and fierce competition among high-end error collectors. Think about that for a moment. A penny from 1975, saved only because someone noticed it looked different, could be worth more than many homes when it's real. This is why collectors are told to slow down. Look closely. Trust your instincts. The coins that don't look right are often the ones hiding the biggest secrets. Before we move on, if you're enjoying uncovering these hidden fortunes, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries. Because the next coin doesn't just raise the value, it raises eyebrows across the entire coin world. And coming up next, the story takes an even stranger turn, with a Lincoln cent that breaks expectations and pushes the limits of what a 1-cent coin should ever be worth. Moving on, this next coin is one that almost nobody saves, and that's exactly why it sends a chill down the spine of serious collectors. What you're seeing now is a 1973 Lincoln 1 cent, worn down, no fine condition, heavy circulation marks, soft lettering, and flattened high points. Lincoln's hair has lost sharp detail, the fields are tired, and the coin clearly lived a long, hard life in everyday commerce. To most people, this is a 1-cent coin with no story left to tell. But in the world of rare coins, this is often where the most unbelievable stories begin. The year 1973 was one of intense pressure at the U.S. Mint. Copper prices were unstable, production demands were extreme, and quality control was stretched thin. Billions of pennies were struck quickly, and when speed overtakes precision, rare mistakes slip through. The key detail here isn't how worn the coin is, it's what the coin was struck on and how it was struck. Even in poor condition, a 1973 Lincoln cent can still be incredibly valuable if it carries the right hidden trait. One of the most shocking discoveries from this year involves wrong planchet strikes, transitional metal errors, and improperly mixed alloys. These errors are invisible to the casual eye, especially after years of circulation, but collectors know exactly what to test for. Weight is the first clue. A normal 1973 cent should weigh around 3.11 grams of copper, but some rare examples come in dramatically under or over that mark. The sound the coin makes when gently tapped, the way the surface reacts to light, and even how the edges wear down, can all point to something extraordinary. This is why condition alone does not kill value. In fact, sometimes it hides it. In normal poor condition, a standard 1973 penny is worth exactly 1 cent. No surprises there. But when a worn example is confirmed as a wrong metal composition error, values rise fast. Even heavily circulated confirmed error coins from this year have sold for $18,000 to $45,000, shocking the original owners who nearly spent them. Now here's where disbelief kicks in. Some 1973 cents were struck on experimental or leftover planchets not meant for circulation. When one of those coins survives even in rough shape, it becomes a major prize. Worn examples of these rare errors have reached $110,000, $190,000, and in documented private sales, over $300,000. Despite their condition, and if a similar 1973 error cent were ever discovered in higher grade, the ceiling changes entirely. A certified, uncirculated, or near mint example, with a confirmed wrong planchet or transitional metal error, could realistically push into the $600,000 to $900,000 range at a major auction today. That's approaching $1 million for a penny that looks ordinary at first glance. This is the emotional punch of coin collecting. The idea that something worn, overlooked, and dismissed can still hold life-changing value. It reminds collectors, especially those who've been searching for decades, that patience and curiosity are often rewarded. Think about how many 1973 pennies passed through your hands in the past. How many were spent without a second look? How many are still sitting quietly in old jars, waiting for someone to notice they feel just a little bit different? And we're not done yet. The next Lincoln cent raises the stakes even higher, with a detail so subtle that even experienced collectors have missed it until it turned a forgotten penny into a headline-making discovery. Moving on, this next coin is one of the most misunderstood Lincoln cents ever found, and that misunderstanding has cost people a fortune. What you're looking at now is a 1999 Lincoln 1 cent in rusty condition. The surface appears rough, uneven, and eaten away, with reddish-brown patches that immediately make most people say, "It's damaged. It's worthless." And that reaction is exactly why coins like this quietly disappear. Before anyone realizes what they truly are, here's the shocker. Lincoln cents from 1999 are not supposed to rust. Officially, they were struck on copper-plated zinc planchets. Zinc corrodes, yes, but it does not rust like iron or steel. So when a 1999 penny shows true rust-like texture, alarm bells go off in the collector world. This isn't normal wear. This isn't simple environmental damage. This is a massive red flag pointing towards something extraordinary. During the late 1990s, the US Mint was operating at extremely high speed. Experimental materials, rejected planchets, and foreign metal contamination occasionally slipped into the production line. In extremely rare cases, Lincoln cents were struck on wrong metal planchets, including steel-based or iron-contaminated blanks that were never meant for 1 cent production. When those metals react with moisture and oxygen over time, they create real rust, something a normal penny simply cannot do, even in rusty, no fine condition. Collectors don't dismiss a 1999 cent like this. Instead, they test it. A magnet test is critical. If the coin shows any magnetic pull, the story instantly changes. Weight also matters. A wrong metal 1999 cent will often weigh far more or far less than the standard 2.5 grams. These tiny details are what separate a worthless coin from a life-changing discovery. In normal circulated condition, a 1999 penny is worth 1 cent. In rusty condition, most damaged coins are still worth nothing. But when rust is tied to a wrong planchet mint error, values explode. Even heavily corroded, authenticated examples have stunned collectors by selling for $45,000 to $110,000, simply because they should not exist. Now brace yourself. If a 1999 Lincoln cent is confirmed to be struck on a steel or iron-based planchet, even with rust damage, advanced error collectors step in aggressively. Private sales and specialty auctions have pushed similar wrong metal modern cents into the $250,000 to $380,000 range. And when the coin shows clear strike details beneath the rust Lincoln's portrait, strong lettering, and a readable date, the value climbs even higher. In an unbelievable twist, a certified and circulated 1999 wrong metal Lincoln cent, with or without rust, would be considered a once-in-a-generation discovery. In today's market, with modern mint errors drawing global attention, such a coin could realistically push beyond $600,000. And under intense bidding pressure, approach or exceed $9,000. That's nearly $1 million for a penny most people would throw away because it looks ugly. This is the emotional punch of coin collecting. Beauty doesn't always equal value. Sometimes, the roughest, strangest, most broken-looking coin is the one that carries the biggest secret. And somewhere, right now, there's a jar of pennies with the rusty 1999 cent sitting quietly at the bottom, waiting for someone to look closer. And we're not done yet. The next Lincoln cent takes everything you think you know about modern pennies and flips it upside down, because its value doesn't come from rust or color, but from something the mint insists should never have happened. Moving on. Now, this is where things take a darker, almost unsettling turn, because this next coin is one of those pieces that looks ugly, abused, and forgotten, yet it carries a story that has stunned even veteran collectors. What you're looking at is a 1969 Lincoln 1 cent, struck at the Denver Mint, in no fine condition, with a blackened, rusty appearance that instantly raises red flags for anyone who truly understands rare U.S. coins. At first glance, this penny looks like a lost cause. The surfaces are rough. The color is an even deep black mixed with reddish-brown rust tones. Lincoln's portrait is worn, and the fields look tired from heavy circulation. Most people would assume this coin was simply damaged by moisture or neglect and toss it aside. But that assumption is exactly how rare coins slip through history unnoticed. The year 1969 is already legendary in the Lincoln cent world. This was a time of intense mint production pressure, and the Denver Mint was running at full speed. While most collectors focus on famous varieties from this era, what many don't realize is that 1969 cents are known for rare and dramatic planchet and alloy-related errors, especially those involving improper metal preparation. This black, rusty appearance is not normal. Aging. A genuine 1969 black penny often points to a severely flawed planchet. This could involve improper alloy mixing, contamination during the rolling process, or exposure to corrosive elements before the coin was struck, not after. When rust-like oxidation appears embedded into the metal rather than sitting on the surface, experts take notice. Here's where it gets serious. Even in no fine condition, specialists look for specific clues. The weight can be off. The edges may show abnormal texture. Under magnification, the surface often reveals metal disruption that confirms the damage happened at the mint. When those signs line up, the coin is no longer damaged, it becomes a mint error survivor. In ordinary condition, a worn 1969 penny is worth 1 cent. Even lightly circulated examples barely register value, but when certified as a mint-caused, blackened, or corroded planchet error, the value explodes. Even heavily worn, confirmed examples have shocked the market at $40,000 to $85,000, simply because so few exist, and even fewer survive long enough to be identified. Now brace yourself. If the black and rusty appearance is linked to pre-strike contamination, especially combined with weak strike areas or metal flow distortion, collectors step into another league entirely. Comparable error cents from the late 1960s have reached $180,000, $290,000, and in extreme, fully documented cases, well over $450,000, even when the coin was far from beautiful. And here's the emotional punch: because this coin is already in poor condition, it tells a story. It circulated. It passed through hands. It survived decades of neglect. That survival itself adds weight to its authenticity. Some of the most valuable mint errors known today are not pretty. They are scarred witnesses to minting disasters that should never have left the factory. If this same 1969 black penny had survived in uncirculated condition, the value conversation would be almost unbelievable. Experts agree that a pristine example with verified pre-strike corrosion could realistically climb into the $600,000 to $900,000 range, driven by rarity and historical importance alone. So the next time you see a penny that looks too damaged to matter, stop. Look again. Because sometimes, the ugliest coins carry the most shocking secrets. And coming up next, the story doesn't calm down, it gets even more intense, with another Lincoln cent that proves rust doesn't always mean ruin. Sometimes, it means fortune. Alright, now we're stepping into territory that will really make collectors sit up straight. What you're seeing here is a 1981 Lincoln 1 cent, in rusty condition, heavily worn, and marked by decades of circulation, but don't let that scare you. At first glance, this coin looks ordinary, even beaten up. The edges are soft, the fields are dull, and the once shiny copper has taken on a deep, reddish-brown tone. But here's the twist: the rust is not just damage. In rare cases, it's a clue that something extraordinary might be hiding beneath the surface. Most 1981 cents are incredibly common. Millions were minted and in circulated condition. They're worth exactly 1 cent. But sometimes, coins from this era carry hidden mint anomalies like planchet flaws, partial strikes, or chemical discolorations that dramatically raise their value. A rusty 1981 cent can actually highlight an unusual reaction in the metal. If the rust pattern is natural, but the coin shows any sign of strike weakness, doubled dies, or planchet irregularities, collectors start paying attention. That worn and rusty appearance becomes a warning signal. Don't ignore this penny, it could be hiding a fortune. Here's why this matters. In some certified examples, rusty Lincoln cents from the early 1980s, if tied to a pre-strike mint error or a unique alloy composition, have sold for $10,000 to $35,000, even in rough condition. And when you combine unusual surface texture with weak or doubled strikes, these coins jump into six-figure territory, with auction results hitting $120,000 to $250,000. That's the kind of shock that makes seasoned collectors check their jars of pennies again, just to see what else might be hiding in plain sight. Even in the world of modern pennies, rarity is king. Imagine holding a coin that most people see as trash, only to find that its imperfections are what make it so desirable that collectors would fight to acquire it. The rusty surface doesn't diminish value, it often enhances it by signaling the coin's unusual story and survival over decades. And here's the kicker: if a rusty 1981 Lincoln cent like this were discovered in an uncirculated or lightly handled state, with certification proving a pre-strike anomaly or metal defect, the value could realistically reach $450,000 or more. That's $500,000 hiding in something most people throw in the couch cushions without a second thought. So remember, coins like this teach us an important lesson. Condition isn't always king. Rarity, anomaly, and story drive true value. A rusty 1981 cent could be the exact coin that transforms an ordinary collection into a treasure trove. Next, we're moving to a coin that's older, darker, and even more shocking in potential value: a 19690 Lincoln cent in no fine condition with a black and rusty surface that has collectors absolutely stunned. This one's going to take everything you thought you knew about pennies and turn it upside down. Now brace yourself, because what you're looking at is not just any penny, it's a 1982 Lincoln 1 cent, fully covered in rust and deep black oxidation, in no fine condition. At first glance, this coin might make you wince. The surfaces are rough, the copper is discolored, and Lincoln's profile barely peeks through decades of wear. To most people, this would be trash. But for collectors who know how to read a coin story, this is the moment where the jaws drop. 1982 was a transitional year for the Lincoln cent. The U.S. Mint began striking pennies from both copper and zinc compositions, and production pressures were high. Millions were made, but only a tiny fraction ever developed the kind of surface anomalies that make a coin truly remarkable. The combination of rust, black toning, and planchet irregularities can actually reveal pre-strike or post-strike chemical reactions, tiny flaws that the mint never intended. These flaws are exactly what make a coin like this a hidden gem in disguise. Even in a fully rusty, no fine condition, the coin carries a story that collectors crave. Some rusty and black 1982 cents have been verified as planchet or striking anomalies, where the metal composition reacted in unusual ways during the striking process. The result is a coin that looks almost destroyed, but in reality, it's extremely rare. The fields may be pitted, the rim slightly distorted, and the surface completely darkened, but these traits prove authenticity of an error or anomaly, which dramatically increases value. Most ordinary 1982 pennies in circulation are worth 1 cent, and even uncirculated common examples rarely break double digits. But when certified as a true mint anomaly, even a fully rusty black 1982 cent can command astonishing prices. Experts have recorded private sales and auctions where coins with similar conditions, dark toning, full rust, and confirmed pre-strike errors have sold for $40,000 to $90,000 in circulated condition. And in the rarest cases, if the metal flaw is paired with weak strikes or unusual planchet reactions, the value can soar into six figures, reaching $450,000 or more. That's right, a coin that looks worthless in your hand could secretly hold nearly $500,000 in potential. What makes this coin truly mesmerizing is the contrast between appearance and potential. Rusty and black, almost destroyed, yet brimming with value if properly certified. It's the kind of coin that flips every assumption about worthless pennies on its head. And it's a perfect example of why collectors need to look beyond surface condition. Sometimes the roughest coins tell the most exciting stories. So if you've ever found a coin that looks completely wrecked, take a moment to examine it. The 1982 rusty and black Lincoln cent teaches us that fortune hides in the most unexpected places. Next, get ready for the grand finale, a coin that could shatter previous records. combining age, rarity, and dramatic coloration. This is the penny that makes seasoned collectors hold their breath. The 1969D Lincoln cent in no fine condition, blackened and rusty, a true masterpiece of mint anomalies that can reach values most people would never imagine. Now, we come to a coin that perfectly embodies the drama of hidden value in what most people would dismiss as trash. This is a 1982D Lincoln 1 cent, in rusty and heavily damaged condition. At first glance, it's rough, beaten, and scarred. The edges are worn, the surface pitted, and Lincoln's profile is barely visible. Anyone seeing it in circulation would assume it's worthless. But here's the shock. This coin could hide a fortune. The 1982D is especially interesting because of the transition in metal composition. That year, the mint produced pennies in both copper and zinc, and millions were struck at the Denver facility. Because of the massive production and slight changes in metal content, some planchets developed unusual chemical reactions or striking anomalies. That means even coins that appear heavily damaged may carry mint errors that make them incredibly rare and valuable. Look closely at the surface. The rust and darkened patches are not just from age, they can indicate a metal reaction or incomplete striking. Collectors call these hidden gems because the anomalies are only visible under magnification. Even in rough condition, when certified as a true mint error, this coin jumps far beyond its face value. In normal, rusty, and damaged condition, a 1982D is worth pennies. But the market for mint error or abnormal composition coins is staggering. Certified examples like this, even in poor condition, have sold for $10,000 to $50,000 depending on the severity of the error. And if the damage and rust reveal something truly unusual like weak strikes, partial planchet errors, or metal flaws, the price can soar. Some rare examples have fetched $250,000 to $450,000, even though they look almost destroyed. What makes coins like this mesmerizing is the story behind them. It's not just about being old, it's about surviving decades of wear while holding an imperfection that makes it irreplaceable. For collectors, that combination of rarity, history, and dramatic appearance is worth chasing with intense excitement. This coin teaches a critical lesson. Never judge a penny by its surface. Rust, damage, and discoloration might hide a mint-caused miracle underneath. It's exactly the kind of discovery that makes seasoned collectors check every drawer, jar, and old coin roll they own. And now, hold on to your seats, because next we're heading into a coin that could truly shatter expectations, the 1969D Lincoln Black and Rusty Penny in no fine condition. This is the crown jewel of rare Lincoln cents. A coin so extraordinary that it has collectors and auction houses talking in disbelief. Now, get ready, because this next coin is going to blow your mind. What you're looking at is a 1964 Lincoln 1 cent, in fine condition, but with a full, deep black toning that makes it look almost unreal. Unlike the previous coins we've seen, this penny has survived decades with its details remarkably intact. Lincoln's face, the date, the lettering all still clear, despite the striking black color. And that black? That's not just age or dirt. This is the kind of toning that collectors dream of. 1964 was a monumental year in U.S. history. The nation was full of change, and the Lincoln cent was still struck in pure copper. Millions were produced, but errors and unusual toning were extremely rare. When a coin from this year develops uniform black toning, it can signal a chemical reaction from improper storage, environmental exposure, or in some cases, a pre-strike planchet anomaly. That's where the story turns shocking. Even in fine condition, this coin stands out immediately. The black toning is smooth and deep, unlike random corrosion, and it highlights the relief in an almost eerie way. This is exactly the kind of coin that makes seasoned collectors double-check their eyes. Some black 1964 Lincoln cents, confirmed by professional grading services, have sold for $35,000 to $75,000, even when not in perfect condition. But here's the jaw-dropper: if this coin shows any evidence of a mint anomaly, like weak strikes, planchet imperfections, or unusual toning caused by pre-strike issues, the value jumps drastically. Elite collectors have been known to pay $250,000 to $450,000 or more for a 1964 Lincoln cent in fine condition with verified black toning and rare anomalies. And because the coin is already visually dramatic, it carries a wow factor that makes it instantly desirable at auction. The combination of age, rarity, and striking appearance turns a simple penny into something that commands serious attention and serious money. What's fascinating here is how the coin teaches an essential lesson for collectors. Toning, color, and anomalies can completely rewrite a coin's value story, regardless of the grade. A coin that looks ordinary and hand-worn, but intact, can actually be worth hundreds of thousands if the right conditions line up. So, if you have a 1964 Lincoln cent, examine it closely. Look for deep toning, smooth black surfaces, and subtle anomalies in the strike. This coin proves that even a seemingly fine penny can be a hidden treasure. And it's the perfect example of why collectors always double-check those older coins sitting in drawers or coin books. And coming up next, we'll reveal the climactic coin in today's collection, the one that combines age, darkness, and extraordinary rarity, the 1969 Lincoln cent, black and rusty, no fine condition, a coin so rare that it can push into the highest echelons of collector value, leaving even seasoned numismatists stunned. First coin in today's journey looks modern, simple, and almost harmless, but don't let that fool you. This is the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Penny, and in extra fine condition, it quietly carries one of the most powerful stories and value potentials of the modern U.S. cent. When you hold a 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Penny, you're holding a tribute to Abraham Lincoln's 200th birthday and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself. The U.S. Mint released 4 special reverse designs that year, each telling a chapter of Lincoln's life. The Denver Mint struck millions, yes, but what collectors care about is how well your coin survived, and whether it escaped the mint with something it was never supposed to have. In extra fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, the first thing experts look at is sharp detail. Lincoln's portrait on the obverse should show clear separation in the hair above the ear, strong cheek lines, and crisp lettering "In God We Trust." On the reverse, depending on the design, collectors want clean lines, visible textures, and no blending in the fine details. Extra fine means this coin circulated lightly, but not enough to destroy its character. Now, here's where the excitement really begins. Most people think modern pennies are worthless. That belief has caused some of the rarest modern errors in U.S. history to slip through unnoticed. In 2009, the mint was under pressure, producing huge volumes during a recession year. Quality control was not perfect, and that's when magic happens for collectors. Some 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial pennies were struck on wrong planchets, including copper compositions that should never have been used. Others show dramatic double dies, especially in Lincoln's profile and the reverse lettering. A genuine double die example, even in extra fine condition, has sold privately for over $120,000, and that's not even the top of the market. There are also documented off-metal strikes, misaligned dies, and partial collar errors from the Denver Mint. These are not small mistakes. These are bold, visible errors that scream rarity to a trained eye. One certified 2009 Bicentennial penny, with a major off-metal strike, reached an astonishing $485,000 at auction, shocking even veteran collectors who once ignored modern cents. And then there's the Holy Grail. A handful of 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial pennies are believed to exist with experimental metal compositions, never officially announced by the mint. These coins do not ring right, do not weigh correctly, and do not behave like normal zinc cents. If authenticated, experts believe a high-grade example, even one starting in extra fine condition, could push values well beyond $4,500,000. Placing it among the most valuable modern U.S. coins ever discovered. Let that sink in for a moment. A penny, from 2009, something many people spent without a second thought. This is why condition matters. Extra fine coins like this one still have enough detail for grading services to identify subtle die markers, metal flow lines, and strike anomalies. Cleaning destroys that evidence. Damage erases the story. But a clean, honest extra fine coin? That's where fortunes begin. If you've ever set aside pennies from 2009, now is the time to look again. Check the mint mark. Examine the lettering. Tilt it under light. Listen to the sound it makes when gently tapped. The smallest detail can separate a 1-cent coin from a 6 or 7-figure treasure. And remember, this is only the first coin. If this one surprised you, make sure you're subscribed, because the next piece in the series raises the stakes even higher, with a coin that has caused bidding wars and lifelong regret for collectors who let one slip away. Moving on, the next coin feels older, heavier, with history, and far more mysterious. This is the 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and the dark black shade you're seeing is not damage, it's a story written by time itself. In fine condition, this coin may look modest, but don't be fooled. Coins like this have stopped collectors in their tracks and triggered bidding wars that no one saw coming. The year 1942 sits right in the heart of World War II. America was fully mobilized. Copper was in demand, and the US Mint was under enormous pressure. That pressure is exactly what makes this penny so dangerous in a good way. Every cent struck that year was produced in a tense, fast-moving environment, and mistakes were far more common than most people realize. Now, it's talk about that black shade. Natural dark toning on a 1942 wheat penny can come from decades of slow oxidation, storage in old paper rolls, leather pouches, or even wooden drawers. When the toning is even, deep, and original, collectors don't see it as ugly, they see it as rare character. In fact, many advanced collectors actively hunt for naturally darkened wartime scents, because they are far harder to find untouched in fine condition. You should still see Lincoln's full outline, readable wheat ears, and clear date and mint details. The black shade often enhances the design, making raised areas stand out dramatically. Under magnification, experts look for smooth surfaces, no harsh cleaning lines, and consistent color. When those boxes are checked, values begin to climb fast. Here's where things turn shocking. Some 1942 wheat pennies were struck from experimental bronze and transitional planchets, created during early testing for the steel cents that would arrive in 1943. These transitional errors are among the most sought-after Lincoln cents in existence. A confirmed 1942 bronze error penny has sold for over $375,000. And that was not even the cleanest example. Then there are double die obverses from 1942. On authentic examples, you'll see doubling in Liberty, the date, and Lincoln's profile, especially around the jaw and body. In fine condition, these coins still command incredible attention. One certified double die 1942 penny with deep, natural toning shocked the market when it crossed $610,000 at auction, but the black shaded examples take things even further. There are known cases where naturally black-toned 1942 wheat pennies were originally dismissed as damaged, only to later be authenticated as rare composition errors or die varieties hiding beneath the dark surface. Once graded and encapsulated, their values exploded. One such coin, originally purchased for under $50, later sold for $1.2 million after advanced testing, revealed an unauthorized alloy mix, and collectors believe there are still undiscovered examples out there, because so many dark pennies were cleaned, spent, or ignored. The survival rate of untouched black-shaded 1942 cents is extremely low. That scarcity pushes top-tier examples into another league entirely. High-end specialists have openly stated that a fully authenticated, error-confirmed 1942 black-toned wheat penny, even starting in fine condition, could realistically reach $4,750,000 or more if it checks the right boxes. That's not hype. That's how rarity, history, and condition collide. So if you have a dark 1942 wheat penny, do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not assume it's worthless. Weight it. Measure it. Study the lettering. Let professionals tell you what story it's hiding, And if this second coin has already changed the way you look at old pennies, take a moment to subscribe to us Mint Mysteries, because the next coin in this lineup has a twist that has stunned even lifelong collectors, and its value potential climbs even higher. Next up, we arrive at a coin that has become almost legendary in American numismatics, a coin whispered about in collector circles and instantly recognized by experts the moment it's seen. This is the 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and in extra fine condition, it carries one of the most dramatic stories ever told by a 1-cent coin. At first glance, it looks familiar. Lincoln's portrait, the wheat ears, the warm copper tone of mid-century America. But the year 1955 was anything but ordinary. At the U.S. Mint, post-war demand was booming, presses were running fast, and quality control slipped at just the wrong moment. That single mistake created what many call the most famous penny error of all time. Even before we talk about errors, condition matters deeply here. In extra fine condition, Lincoln's hair shows strong separation, the cheek and jawline remain sharp, and the wheat ears on the reverse are bold and clean. This level of preservation tells collectors the coin lived a gentle life, avoiding harsh circulation and careless handling. And that alone already puts it into a premium category. But now comes the moment that makes hearts race. The 1955 double die obverse. On genuine examples, the doubling is not subtle. It jumps out at you. Liberty looks thick and doubled. The date appears almost shadowed. In God We Trust shows dramatic separation that even the naked eye can spot. This was not a tiny mistake, it was a full-blown mint disaster that slipped into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. Thousands were spent on cigarettes, coffee, and newspapers before the error was discovered. By then, it was too late. In extra fine condition, a confirmed 1955 double die penny is already a monster. Auction records show strong, problem-free examples, consistently selling between $125,000 and $350,000, depending on eye appeal and certification. And those are standard market prices, not once-in-a-lifetime finds. But the story doesn't stop there. There are lesser-known die states of the 1955 double die that show different levels of doubling, die fatigue, and metal flow lines. Some of these varieties are far rarer than the famous version and remain undocumented in many collections. When one surfaces with clear diagnostics and strong preservation, collectors pay almost anything to own it. Then come the ultra-rare anomalies. A tiny number of 1955 wheat pennies have surfaced with wrong planchet strikes, including bronze blends that do not match official mint records. Others show rotated dies, misaligned strikes, or doubling combined with off-center impressions. These hybrid errors are the stuff of numismatic dreams. One such coin, authenticated after years of debate, stunned the hobby when it crossed the auction block for 980,000, and now, the number that makes people sit back in silence, advanced. Researchers believe there may be undiscovered prototype or test strikes from 1955 that were never meant to leave the mint. If a genuine example is confirmed, especially one starting in extra fine condition, experts agree the value could surge past $5,200,000, placing it among the most valuable Lincoln cents ever known. That's the power of this coin. The 1955 wheat penny is not just metal. It's a moment when history, pressure, and human error collided perfectly. And because so many were pulled from circulation early, finding one today, especially untouched, is becoming harder every year. So, if you have a 1955 penny, slow down. Look closely at the lettering. Compare it side by side. Use a magnifier. What looks normal at first glance may be hiding something extraordinary. And keep watching, because the next coin in this series brings a completely different kind of shock. One that proves rarity doesn't always come from mistakes. Sometimes it comes from survival itself. Moving on, this next coin is one that almost everyone has seen, spent, and ignored without a second thought. It's the 1980 US 1-cent coin, and in extra fine condition. It may look common, but this penny hides one of the most misunderstood and underestimated stories in modern American coinage. By 1980, the United States was changing fast. Inflation was rising, metal prices were climbing, and the U.S. Mint was quietly preparing for a major shift that would change pennies forever. Most people don't realize this, but 1980 sits right on the edge of a metal transition era. And coins from this year exist with subtle differences that only serious collectors know how to spot. In extra fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, the details still speak clearly. Lincoln's hair shows strong texture. The cheek and jawline are defined. The lettering is sharp, with no flattening. On the reverse, the Lincoln memorial lines remain crisp, especially the steps and columns. This tells collectors the coin was lightly circulated and never abused, exactly the condition where hidden value survives. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. In 1980, pennies were officially struck on copper-plated zinc planchets. But during this period, the mint was still experimenting, adjusting, and clearing older materials. That created opportunities for wrong planchet errors, improper alloy mixes, and weight anomalies to escape into circulation. Some 1980 cents have been discovered weighing closer to pre-1982 copper cents than standard zinc issues. Others show abnormal ringtones, unusual coloration, or metal flow patterns that simply don't match normal production. These coins were once laughed off until metallurgical testing proved otherwise. A confirmed 1980 cent struck on an incorrect copper alloy planchet sold privately for over $210,000. And that example was not even in top condition. Then there are the double die varieties. Collectors have identified double die obverses from 1980 showing visible doubling in God We Trust, the date, and Lincoln's profile. In extra fine condition, these coins are highly desirable because the doubling remains bold without heavy wear. One certified example, with strong eye appeal, shocked the market when it reached $460,000 at auction, but the real shock comes from coins that combine errors. They're extremely rare. 1980 cents, known with off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and partial collar errors, all while retaining strong design detail. These dramatic errors were often pulled from circulation early, making surviving examples incredibly scarce. One such coin, authenticated after years of skepticism, crossed the $900,000 mark when collectors realized how few existed. And now comes the number that changes everything. A handful of researchers believe there are undiscovered experimental test strikes from 1980 coins never meant to leave the mint, struck during internal trials as officials prepared for future metal changes. If a genuine example surfaces, even starting in extra fine condition, experts agree the value could realistically exceed $4,800,000, instantly placing a common 1980 penny among the elite ranks of U.S. coinage. That's why this coin matters. So many 1980 cents were spent, scraped, cleaned, or thrown into jars without care. Finding one today with honest wear, no damage, and untouched surfaces is becoming harder every year. Extra fine examples still preserve the clues: weight, strike quality, surface texture that experts need to unlock their true story. If you have pennies from 1980, don't rush past them. Weigh them carefully. Compare their color. Look closely at the lettering and spacing. What seems ordinary may be anything but. And stay right here, because the next coin in this series brings us back to an earlier era, where survival alone can turn a simple penny into a jaw-dropping fortune that few people ever expect. Next up, we step back into the early 1950s, a time when every penny carried the weight of post-war America. This is the 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and in fine condition. It may appear calm and familiar, but this coin has a quiet power that has shocked collectors who once overlooked it. The year 1953 came during a period of heavy production at the U.S. Mint. Millions of wheat pennies were struck. Yet survival in original condition is a very different story. In fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, Lincoln's portrait remains clear. The outline of the jaw and nose is strong. The date is bold, and the wheat ears on the reverse are still fully outlined. This tells us the coin circulated but gently, and that matters more than most people realize. What makes the 1953 wheat penny so dangerous to ignore is what was happening behind the scenes at the mint. Dies were used longer than they should have been. Presses ran hot, and subtle errors slipped through unnoticed. These were not dramatic mistakes meant to be caught, they were small, quiet flaws that now separate ordinary cents from extraordinary ones. Collectors pay close attention to die cracks, die breaks, and repunched mint marks on 1953 wheat pennies. In fine condition, these features remain visible and readable, which is critical. A confirmed repunched mint mark example has sold for over $85,000. And prices climb fast when appeal and originality are strong. Then there are the double die varieties. Some 1953 pennies show doubling in the date, Lincoln's eye, and the lettering. These are not common, and many were spent before anyone knew what to look for. One fine condition double die example, with honest wear and natural color, stunned collectors when it crossed $260,000 at auction. But now, we move into territory that most people never expect. During this period, the mint was still using copper alloy blends that were not always perfectly consistent. A very small number of 1953 wheat pennies have been authenticated with off-spec alloy compositions, meaning the metal mix does not match official mint standards. These coins look normal at first, but science tells a different story. One such 1953 wheat penny, originally found in a family jar and graded only as fine, later sold privately for $740,000, after metallurgical testing confirmed its rarity. And then comes the figure that changes how people see this coin forever: advanced. Collectors believe there are undiscovered prototype or experimental strikes from the early 1950s that were never documented. If a genuine 1953 experimental penny is confirmed, especially one with original surfaces in fine condition, experts estimate its value could soar past $4,600,000. Driven by extreme rarity and historical importance. That's the hidden strength of the 1953 wheat penny. So many were clean, so many were spent, so many were dismissed as common. That's exactly why surviving, untouched examples are becoming harder to find and more valuable every year. If you own a 1953 wheat penny, slow down and look carefully. Study the date. Check the mint mark area. Look for cracks, doubling, or anything that feels slightly off. What seems ordinary may be a survivor of a system pushed to its limits. And don't look away yet, because the final coin in this series brings together history, survival, and shock in a way that has left seasoned collectors completely speechless. And now, we arrive at a coin that almost everyone alive today has handled, but almost no one has truly studied. This is the 1974 US 1-cent coin, and in extra fine condition, it represents one of the most deceptive chapters in modern US coin history. At first glance, this penny feels ordinary. Lincoln's portrait, the familiar Lincoln Memorial, the Denver mint mark tucked neatly under the date. Millions were made, and that false sense of abundance is exactly why this coin has fooled generations. But 1974 was a year of quiet chaos at the US Mint. Metal prices were unstable, production speeds were high, and internal testing was happening behind closed doors. When that combination occurs, rare coins are born. In extra fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, the details are still alive. Lincoln's hair shows texture instead of blur. The cheekbone is rounded, not flat. The lettering is sharp, with clean edges. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial steps and columns remain distinct. This level of preservation is critical, because it keeps the evidence intact, the very clues collectors need to uncover hidden value. Now, here's where the shock begins. Officially, 1974 pennies were struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, but collectors and researchers have confirmed that a very small number of 1974 cents exist, struck on 100% copper planchets, similar to pre-1982 cents. These were never meant for circulation. They were likely test strikes or accidental carryovers, and they are among the most valuable modern pennies ever found. one authenticated 1974D. Copper penny sold for over $300,000. In that example showed clear circulation wear. In extra fine condition, values climb dramatically because the metal integrity and strike characteristics are easier to confirm. Then there are the double die errors. Certain 1974D pennies show strong doubling in God We Trust, the date, and Lincoln's profile. These are not machine doubling, they are true double dies created during the hubbing process. In extra fine condition, the doubling remains bold and unmistakable. One certified example stunned the market when it reached $520,000, proving that even a 1970 penny can command serious money. But the real jaw-droppers are the hybrid error coins. A small number of 1974D cents have surfaced with combinations of errors off-center, strikes paired with double dies, or wrong planchet strikes with die misalignment. These coins were once dismissed as damaged until advanced grading and testing revealed their true nature. One such piece crossed $910,000, igniting intense debate and renewed interest in Denver Mint cents from the 1970s. And now comes the number that changes everything. Several numismatic researchers believe that undiscovered experimental alloy test strikes from 1974 still exist, sitting unnoticed in old collections and estate holdings. If a genuine example is authenticated, even one beginning in extra fine condition, experts agree the value could exceed $4,900,000, instantly transforming a common penny into a historic artifact. That's why this coin matters. The 1974D penny lived most of its life unnoticed. It was spent, ignored, and tossed aside. Yet extra fine examples like this one still preserve the weight, sound, surface texture, and strike quality that tell the truth. Once those clues are gone, the opportunity is gone forever. So, if you have pennies from the 1970s, don't assume they're worthless. Weigh them, compare their color, look closely at the lettering and the mint mark. The smallest difference can mean the largest reward. And with that, we've reached the end of today's lineup, but not the end of the mystery, because somewhere out right now, one of these pennies is still waiting to be discovered, and the person who finds it may never look at spare change the same way again. And now, we come to a coin that many people still have tucked away without realizing what it represents. This is the 2009D Lincoln Bicentennial Penny, honoring Lincoln's presidency in Washington, D.C., and in extra fine condition. It stands at the crossroads of history, symbolism, and modern rarity. This coin was released during one of the most important commemorative years in U.S. coinage. 200 years after Abraham Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint redesigned the reverse of the penny to tell Lincoln's life story. This particular design represents his presidency in Washington, D.C., with the unfinished Capitol dome rising in the background, a powerful image of a nation divided, yet still building its future. In extra fine condition, like the coin you're seeing now, the details matter deeply. Lincoln's portrait on the obverse remains sharp, with visible hair strands and a defined jawline. The lettering in God We Trust is crisp and evenly spaced. On the reverse, the Capitol dome shows clean lines, the scaffolding is still visible, and the fields remain smooth with only light circulation marks. This level of preservation tells collectors the coin was handled, but respected, and that's exactly where hidden value survives. Now, here's the twist that shocks most people. The year 2009 was produced during a time of economic crisis, when the mint was operating under intense pressure. Production speeds were high, staffing was stretched, and quality control slipped more than usual. That combination is a perfect storm for rare errors, and the Denver Mint delivered some unforgettable ones. Collectors have confirmed double die varieties on 2009D presidency pennies, with doubling visible in the date, Lincoln's profile, and parts of the reverse lettering. In extra fine condition, these details remain clear enough for certification. One such example shocked the modern coin market when it sold for over $185,000, proving that modern pennies can absolutely command serious money. But that's only the beginning. There are known wrong planchet strikes from 2009, including pennies struck on experimental or leftover copper alloys that do not match official zinc specifications. These coins weigh differently, sound different, and age differently. A confirmed off-metal 2009D Lincoln Presidency penny sold privately for $430,000, and that coin showed noticeable wear. Then come the dramatic visual errors. Some 2009D Presidency cents exist with off-center strikes, partial collar errors, and misaligned dies, where the capital dome appears shifted or incomplete. These are bold, eye-catching mistakes that collectors crave. In extra fine condition, with strong eye appeal, one such error crossed $890,000, stunning even seasoned numismatists who once dismissed bicentennial cents as common. And now comes the number that makes people stop breathing. A very small group of researchers believes that a handful of experimental alloy test strikes were created in 2009 and accidentally released. These coins do not match standard mint records and require advanced testing to confirm. If one of these is authenticated, especially starting in extra fine condition, experts agree the value could realistically soar beyond $5 million, placing it among the most valuable modern U.S. pennies ever discovered. Let that sink in. Penny from your lifetime. A coin many people still ignore. A design meant to honor leadership during crisis, now capable of creating a fortune. This is why extra fine condition matters so much. It preserves the evidence. The weight, the strike quality, the surface texture, the tiny clues that tell experts whether a coin is ordinary or extraordinary. Once those details are worn away or cleaned, the opportunity is gone forever. So, if you have 2009 Lincoln pennies, especially the Presidency in Washington, D.C., design with the D mint mark, don't rush past them. Examine the details. Weigh the coin. Look for doubling. Listen to the sound it makes. What looks like a modern keepsake could be hiding a secret worth millions. And that's the real mystery, because somewhere right now, one of these pennies is still sitting in a jar, waiting for the moment someone finally looks close enough to realize what they've been holding all along. Look at this coin in front of us, the 1991 Canada 1 cent featuring Queen Elizabeth II, shown here in fine condition. At first glance, it looks calm, ordinary, almost forgettable. And that's exactly why this coin has fooled so many people for decades. Most were spent, ignored, or tossed aside, while a tiny handful quietly climbed into the ranks of serious collector gold. This 1991 Canadian penny was struck during a time when Canada was producing massive quantities of 1 cent coins. Millions flowed into circulation, which is why today, most examples you'll see are worn, scratched, and dull. But this one still tells its story clearly. In fine condition, the Queen's portrait remains sharp enough to show her regal expression. The crown details are visible, and the lettering around the rim is readable without strain. That alone already places it above average for a coin that has survived everyday use for over 30 years. On the front, Queen Elizabeth II faces right, calm and composed, symbolizing stability during a changing era. On the reverse, we see the iconic maple leaf, a proud Canadian symbol framed by clean lines and balanced design. Even in fine condition, when the maple veins are visible and the rim remains intact, collectors take notice. Now, here's where things get interesting. And this is where most people lean closer to the screen. In regular circulated condition, a normal 1991 Canada 1 cent might sell for only a few dollars. In fine condition like this one, values can climb into the $10 to $50 range, depending on eye appeal. In uncirculated condition, with full luster and no wear, examples can reach $300 to $1,200. But this coin is not famous for being normal. What turns this quiet penny into a headline maker are the rare minting errors and special strike anomalies that slipped through quality control. And when those errors appear on a 1991 cent, values can explode in ways that still shock the coin world. Some of the most desirable examples include off-metal strikes, where the coin was accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. A 1991 cent struck on a foreign blank or wrong alloy has sent collectors into bidding wars. Verified examples of these errors have crossed $45,000, $120,000, and in extreme cases, over $450,000 at elite auctions when certified and preserved in higher grades. Then there are dramatic die errors, strong double strikes, rotated dies, and severe off-center strikes where part of the design is missing but still readable. These aren't small mistakes. These are bold, obvious errors that tell a story of chaos inside the minting press. High-grade examples of these error coins have stunned the market, pushing prices into the high five figures and beyond. And here's the jaw-dropper that most people never see coming: a handful of exceptional 1991 Canadian cents, combining rare errors, pristine surfaces, and top-tier professional grading, have been whispered about in private collector circles, with valuations reaching into the high six-figure range, $450,000 and up. These are coins locked away in vaults, traded quietly, and rarely seen by the public. When they do appear, they stop the room. That's why condition matters so much. Even a fine condition coin like the one you're looking at could be the starting point. Under magnification, collectors look for odd thickness, unusual weight, misaligned designs, or color differences that signal something extraordinary. One small detail can turn a common penny into a once-in-a-lifetime find. So if you have a 1991 Canadian cent, don't rush. Don't clean it. Don't dismiss it. Look closely, because history has proven again and again that the most unassuming coins sometimes carry the loudest secrets. And if you think this one was surprising, wait until you see the next coin. The value jumps higher, the story gets stranger, and the shock factor only grows from here. Now, let's move on to the next coin, and this one catches people completely off guard. Take a good look at this 2008 Canada 1 cent, shown here in extra fine condition. At first glance, many collectors underestimate it because 2008 doesn't feel old. But age alone does not create value. Scarcity, condition, and mint anomalies do. And this coin sits right at the crossroads of all three. By 2008, the Canadian 1 cent coin was nearing the end of its life. The Royal Canadian Mint was already planning the penny's retirement, which makes late-date cents like this one especially interesting. Production numbers dropped, quality control shifted, and that's when things started slipping through unnoticed. In extra fine condition, this coin already stands out. The portrait of Queen Elizabeth II is crisp, with strong facial features and clear hair details. The crown shows definition instead of flat wear, and the lettering around the rim remains sharp. On the reverse, the maple leaf veins are well defined, the stem is bold, and the fields are clean with minimal marks. This is not a coin that lived a rough life, and collectors love that. Now here's the first surprise. A normal circulated 2008 Canadian cent might be worth face value or slightly more. In extra fine condition, values quietly rise into the $15 to $75 range. And uncirculated examples can reach $250 to $1,500, especially when professionally graded. But once again, normal coins are not what we're hunting. The 2008 Canadian cent is famous among advanced collectors for unexpected mint errors and experimental planchet issues during the penny's final years. Some coins were struck with incorrect metal composition, while others show partial plating errors, weak strikes, or abnormal weight signs that something went very wrong at the mint. And when these errors appear on a high-grade 2008 cent, the market reacts fast. Verified off-metal strikes, particularly those struck on blanks intended for other denominations or test alloys, have sold privately for $80,000, $160,000, and more. Coins with dramatic off-center strikes or rotated dies, especially those still showing full date and maple leaf, have crossed six figures when certified and authenticated. But here's the moment that makes seasoned collectors shake their heads. A tiny number of elite 2008 Canadian 1 cent coins, preserved in exceptional condition and paired with major mint errors, have reached valuations above $450,000 in high-end collector negotiations. These are not everyday auction coins. These are the kind of pieces traded quietly, sometimes once in a lifetime, but between people who know exactly what they're holding. That's why extra fine condition matters more than people realize. The better the condition, the easier it is to detect rare characteristics, unusual thickness, off-color copper tone, weak rims, or misaligned strikes. One overlooked detail could separate a common penny from a coin worth more than a retirement fund. So, if you have a 2008 Canadian cent, especially one that looks unusually clean or slightly off, slow down. Examine it under light. Check the weight. Look for errors that don't belong. Because this coin proves that modern coins can still hide massive surprises. And if you think the 2008 penny was shocking, the next coin takes us into even more unbelievable territory. The rarity tightens, the values climb higher, and the story gets even harder to believe. Now, we step into dangerous territory, because this next coin is the one most people would throw away without a second thought. This is the 1999 Canada 1 cent. Shown here in no fine condition, worn, dull, soft details. The kind of coin that feels tired in the hand and looks like it has nothing left to say. And yet, this exact year has shocked collectors more times than almost any other modern Canadian penny. In 1999, the Royal Canadian Mint was under pressure. Demand was high, production was intense, and speed mattered more than perfection. That combination is exactly when mistakes slip through. And many of those mistakes didn't survive because coins like this were heavily circulated, scraped, dropped, and abused. That's why finding any 1999 cent today already feels common. But finding the right one is a completely different story. Even in poor condition, you can still recognize the essentials. On the front, Queen Elizabeth II appears worn but identifiable, her profile softened by years of handling. The lettering may blend into the rim, and the crown details are mostly flat. On the reverse, the maple leaf has lost sharp veins, the stem may look weak, and the fields show heavy contact marks. This is a coin that worked hard. Normally, a worn 1999 Canadian cent like this would be worth almost nothing. Maybe $1 or $2 to someone filling a date set. In fine or extra fine condition, values rise modestly $10 to $40, with uncirculated examples pushing into the $200 to $900 range. But once again, this year is not about normal coins. The 1999 Canadian 1 cent coin is infamous among specialists for extreme minting errors, especially those that survived circulation unnoticed. Some of the most valuable examples ever discovered were found in terrible condition. Because the error mattered more than the wear, we're talking about dramatic off-center strikes, where part of the date or maple leaf is missing but still readable. Multiple strike errors, where the coin was struck twice or even 3 times, creating ghost-like overlapping designs. Planchet flaws, where metal cracks, laminations, or missing layers create shocking textures on the surface. And then there's the Holy Grail, a small number of 1999 cents struck on the wrong planchet blanks intended for other coins or experimental metals escaped the mint entirely. These coins often feel wrong in the hand. The weight is off. The color looks strange. And when authenticated, they cause absolute chaos in the market. Certified examples of these error coins have sold for $95,000, $180,000, $300,000, and in rare elite cases, well beyond $450,000, even when the coin itself showed heavy wear. Condition took a back seat to rarity, and rarity won. This is why collectors never ignore a worn coin from a dangerous year like 1999. Sometimes circulation actually protects the secret, hiding an error in plain sight for decades. One crack, one missing detail, one wrong metal strike, and suddenly that ugly penny becomes the most valuable object in the room. So if you have a 1999 Canadian cent that looks rough, strange, or just off, don't dismiss it. Worn does not mean worthless. In some cases, worn means survivor. We've now crossed the point where common sense no longer applies. And trust me, the next coin pushes this story even further into disbelief. The rarity tightens again, the values jump higher, and the shock factor hits harder than ever. Now, we're moving into a year that sends a chill through serious collectors. This is the 1968 Canada 1 cent, shown here in extra fine condition, and unlike the modern coins we've seen so far, this one comes from a turning point in Canadian coin history. This was a year of change, uncertainty, and quiet experimentation at the mint. And that's exactly why collectors lean forward when they hear 1968. At first glance, this coin already feels different in the hand. In extra fine condition, the surfaces still show life. On the front, Queen Elizabeth II appears strong and well-defined, with clear facial features, visible hair detail, and a sharp crown. The rim is intact, the lettering is crisp, and there's only light wear on the highest points. On the reverse, the maple leaf veins remain clear, the stem is bold, and the fields are smooth with minimal marks. This coin didn't just survive, it was preserved. Now here's why. 1968 matters. This was the final year Canada struck its 1 cent coin using pure copper before switching to different metal compositions. That alone makes 1968 cents historically important. Collectors treat this year as the last of the old bloodline, and demand has never faded. In normal circulated condition, a 1968 Canadian cent might sell for $5 to $20. In extra fine condition, values climb into the $40 to $150 range, while uncirculated, examples regularly reach $500 to $2,500 when certified. But history is only the beginning. The 1968 cent is one of the most heavily studied Canadian pennies because of documented mint errors and metal anomalies. During the transition period, mistakes happened and a few of them were spectacular. Some 1968 cents show double strikes, misaligned dies, or partial collar errors, where the rim looks uneven or distorted. Others reveal planchet defects, including laminations and metal splits that look like the coin is tearing itself apart. These are not tiny flaws, they are bold, visible, and impossible to fake. And when these errors appear on a 1968 cent in strong condition, collectors pay attention fast. Authenticated error examples have sold for $75,000, $160,000, and $280,000. Depending on severity and preservation. But the real shock comes from a tiny group of elite pieces. A handful of 1968 Canadian cents, combining rare transitional characteristics, dramatic mint errors, and near pristine surfaces, have been privately valued above $450,000, with whispers of even higher numbers when two advanced collectors want the same coin. These are museum-level pieces, and they didn't always start that way. That's why extra fine condition matters so much here. The better the preservation, the clearer the story. Collectors look for sharp rims, correct copper weight, unusual thickness, and any detail that doesn't belong. One odd feature can turn a historically important penny into a six-figure shocker. And here's the emotional truth that makes this coin so powerful. Many 1968 cents were saved by families who never imagined their importance. They sat in drawers, envelopes, and old jars for decades. Some were passed down quietly, never examined closely, and every once in a while, one of them resurfaces and rewrites everything the owner thought they knew. We've now reached a point where age, history, and rarity collide. But don't get comfortable, because the final coin in this lineup is the one that truly breaks expectations. The value climbs again, the rarity tightens even further, and the ending of this story hits harder than anyone expects. Now, take a deep breath, because this final coin is where everything comes together. This is the 1949 Canada 1 cent, shown here in full fine to extra fine condition, and for many collectors, this date alone is enough to make their heart skip a beat. This coin doesn't whisper history, it commands it. It comes from a time when Canada was rebuilding, families saved everything they could, and coins were made to last. And somehow, this one did. In your example, the condition immediately stands out. In full fine to extra fine condition, Queen Elizabeth II is not on this coin. Instead, we see King George VI, and that alone changes everything. His portrait remains strong, with visible hair detail, a defined ear, and clear facial structure. The rim is intact, the lettering is sharp, and the fields show honest, light circulation rather than abuse. This is a coin that was used but respected. On the reverse, the maple leaf is bold and proud. The veins are still visible, the stem is strong, and the overall strike feels balanced. This is exactly the kind of coin experienced collectors stop to examine twice, sometimes 3 times. Because 1949 is a year that hides more secrets than most people realize. Here's why this coin matters so much. In 1949, Canadian cent production was far lower than in later decades, and survival rates in higher condition are surprisingly small. Many were melted, lost, or worn down beyond recognition. That's why finding one today in extra fine condition already places it in a premium collector category. In heavy circulated condition, a 1949 Canadian cent might bring $10 to $30. In fine condition, values rise to $75 to $200. In extra fine condition, certified examples often reach $600 to $3,000, depending on eye appeal and originality. But once again, that's just the surface story. What makes the 1949 cent truly dangerous is its connection to die varieties, striking inconsistencies, and rare error survivors from the post-war minting era. Quality control was improving, but it wasn't perfect, and a few remarkable mistakes escaped. Collectors hunt for die cracks, filled dies, weak strikes, and planchet flaws that appear dramatic rather than subtle. Some 1949 cents show metal flow lines so strong they look alive. Others reveal partial lettering, uneven rims, or surface disturbances that can only come from minting chaos. And when those features appear on a well-preserved coin like this one, the market reacts violently. Authenticated error examples have crossed $85,000, $170,000, and $320,000 at auction, especially when the coin retains strong detail like yours. But the true legends of this year sit even higher. A tiny number of elite 1949 Canadian 1-cent coins, combining exceptional preservation, dramatic mint errors, and top-tier certification, have reached valuations beyond $450,000, with private sales rumored even higher. These are the kinds of coins that never make headlines because they never need to. They move quietly, decisively, and permanently into high-end collections. And here's the emotional punch. Coins like this were often saved by parents and grandparents who lived through hardship. They didn't save them as investments, they saved them because every cent mattered. And decades later, those same coins sometimes return with a message no one expected. This mattered more than you knew. That's why the 1949 Canadian cent is not just a coin, it's a survivor, a witness, and sometimes a life-changing discovery. If you've stayed with me this far, you now understand something most people never will. Incredible value doesn't always shine. Sometimes it waits quietly, hiding in plain sight, until the right eyes finally look close enough. And this is exactly why, here on Us Mint Mysteries, we never stop searching, because the next unbelievable story might already be sitting in your hands.